I'd like to explain a safety measure in twisting to protect the sacroiliac joints. So the sacroiliac joints are located right here. So you can feel a little divot on your own back, either side of the sacrum, and it's right where the sacrum attaches to the hip bones or the ilium. These joints are not very flexible. They should actually be quite tight. They're not very elastic, and that's for a very good reason. If the joint is too loose, then the bones can rub against each other and be very uncomfortable. And if the joint's tight, they fit neatly together, just like your knuckles can fit together. So this joint only really becomes a little looser when you're giving birth. So in pregnancy, your body is going to naturally release a hormone which will make this joint more flexible to enable a woman to give birth. Aside from that, it's important not to have this joint be unstable. So one way that we can make the joint unstable is by overstretching it and torquing the connective tissue in the joint. There's ligaments running across the joint to keep this joint stable. And the purpose of this joint is just to give us a little flexibility in the pelvis to enable us to walk and run. But if it was too flexible, it would be the pelvis would be destabilized. What happens in yoga sometimes is that through doing certain postures, we're actually stretching this joint out and making it more flexible. And one of the ways that that can happen sometimes is through twisting and trying to stabilize the pelvis as you twist. And in past times, we've taught yoga this way for many years. So basically, we've been teaching to keep the pelvis stable and then twist. But what that does is it pulls on the sacroiliac joint. It torques the SI joint. It can make it too loose and elastic, and it can cause the sacrum to go out of place, and that can be quite painful, and it's a chronic condition. So we no longer teach twisting and stabilizing the pelvis. So what we do instead is we allow the pelvis to move with the twist. And that way, you're just twisting higher up in the spine, in the more flexible part of the spine. So between T11 and T12, that's the place in the spine where we're able to twist the most. Really, the lower part of your spine, the lumbar spine and sacral area, it doesn't actually have axial rotation in the same way that the higher vertebrae, T11 and T12, have. So that's the place where you're really going to be taking the twist. So instead of stabilizing the pelvis and pulling on the sacroiliac joints, we're going to allow the pelvis to move with the twist. I'm going to show this by having Karen come into revolve triangle, which is a twist. Parivrita Trikonasana. So if you could just place your left hand on your left hip and inhale the right arm straight up. And I can give you a block. As you exhale, reach forwards and then place your hand on the block. You could also place it on the shin or the outside of the foot. This is a good modification. And now extend the left arm straight up and turn to gaze at your thumb. Keep the legs strong and active. And Karen can just allow her pelvis to move with the twist. So you'll notice that Karen's left hip here is a little higher than the right hip. And I'm not going to correct that. In the past, you may have heard teachers speak about having a flat sacrum. Sometimes I've heard teachers say that you should be able to balance a teacup on the sacrum. Well, we're no longer teaching this pose that way because that will be causing that torquing in the sacroiliac joint that I was speaking about. So it's fine to draw this hip back, her left hip back, and lengthen the whole side of the torso. So I'm cupping this shoulder with one hand. I'm creating that little back bending action with my hip and drawing her left hip back with my hand. So I'm creating length, but I'm not trying to ask Karen to keep her pelvis flat. So this is an important instruction that you just want to omit or delete if you've been using it. Thank you, Karen.